Hey guys, so one of the worst feelings in the world is to spend a lot of money on something and have it go bad before you even use a fraction of it. And that's really true with caulking. Today I'm talking about caulking and how you can preserve it for up to 10 years. And this is a legitimate way because I did a bathroom remodel on my own house about 2014. So it's been over 10 years ago, and I sealed the caulking in a very special way, and it is still good. I tested it today to make sure it was still good. I had a small project around a window to do, and sure enough, it is still working. But I'm going to show you what most often goes wrong, some mistakes you're probably making with caulking, and how to fix those mistakes before they become permanent. Now, the first thing I want to show you is what often happens with caulking in just a matter of maybe 5 to 7 days. It takes a few days for this to happen, but I cut the one end of this off so you could see this has become solid. Now, I stored this sitting on its end just to see what would happen, and most of it did drain slightly back into the caulking, into the tubing. But what happens is it becomes hard right here, and it can even go, if there's enough oxygen gets in here, it can even become hardened on the top of that. And so I'm going to show you a way you can preserve it, and another way you can revive it once you think it is gone bad. Now, a lot of people will take nails, screws, other things like that, pieces of wood, and stick in the end of here thinking that they've sealed it, but that is not true. Caulking has to be airtight, and that's the problem, is those screws, pieces of wood, whatever you, dowel pins, whatever you put into here, it's not really stopping the oxygen from getting in there. So you have to have 100% of the oxygen stop from getting in here, which is going to cause a problem all the way down into here, into the very top of the tube. Now, most people, when they're working on a project, they'll use just a fraction of the tube, unless you buy one of the really small containers, and often you're worried about running out. So that's why a lot of people will buy an entire tube thinking they're going to need it, which isn't always true. But one of the smaller, it's about the size of a toothpaste container if you've ever seen it in the store. So if you have a smaller job, you may want to consider doing that. But there's no reason you can't buy a caulking tube this size and have it last for years if you store it properly. Now, I'll say, first of all, this is the most common way that a lot of people do that. They'll take some tape, one variety of another, and they'll put it around the end. They'll wrap it and kind of make it into a cone shape. And it's true, this will work for a specific amount of time, usually anywhere from 3 to 5 days. But this is not a long-term solution because air is still going to get in there. So it's just not one of those things that's going to work well. I'm going to take this off and show you some other products that a lot of people are using these days. Now, these small little caulking caps, you can use these, and it has about the same principle. The problem is they're not airtight either. So if you have a big job and you're not worried about having leftover caulk, these are excellent because they preserve the caulk just until you get through with it. But what you want to do is, once you get through using the caulk, at the end of the day, you just slip one of these over there. It's just like a little small rubber balloon, and you can put over the tip. Now, in the past, I've used the fingertip of latex gloves and then taped it around the base of it. But these are actually the perfect size, and they're really easy to go on, as you can see. So this is great for a short-term solution, but this is not going to be good. I often will do a project and put these back on my workbench and forget about them for long periods of time. So I'm going to show you a way that you can preserve it, as I said earlier, up to 10 years, because I know for a fact my caulk was still good after a decade at this special way of storing them. Now, if you've set your caulking on a bench and you've forgotten about it and it's become impossible to get out of there, and you've probably cut the tip off and you're still seeing a problem, then you may have up to maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch of the caulking that's hardened inside this container. So there's an easy way to bypass this. What you want to do is you want to take either a razor blade, or in my case, I'm taking a pair of PVC cutters, and I'm just going to take the end of it. And of course, once you get through with this, you're going to need to clean this up quite well because you don't want the caulking to be in there. So just some hot running water over that. But you can either do it like this, or you can do it with a razor blade. Now, that's super easy to get in there. The caulking is still pretty good in here. So the main problem was in the exit right here, and it wasn't necessarily here, but I have opened these up before, and this is just a solid piece up to a 1/2 inch thick where it's gone bad. But you can take a razor blade, pop that last piece out, and I'll show you a device that you can use to make it usable again once you've cut the end off. Now, this product will make this work again. So once you've removed the top, either by a pair of PVC cutters or a razor blade, you can use these right here. These are called tube anews. I'll put a link in the description to them. But you can just start over with one of these small end caps, and if it doesn't fit your caulking perfectly, You can take a heat gun or hair dryer and just loosen it up like that, but you want to push it firmly on there because you want it to have a tight fit. But the type of tape I like to put on there is this metallic tape, because this, I guess it's most commonly called furnace tape, but you can put it around the base of that and it holds quite well. It won't let go easily, and it's very, very sticky. So you can use maybe 2 wraps of this around the base of it, then go back in, of course, clip your tip off and start over with this type of top. So that will save you a lot of time and headache and save you a lot of money as well. Now this tape has got to be one of the most strong tapes I've ever used for something like this. This metallic tape or furnace tape, whatever you want to call it, is great because it has a metallic, it's almost like a aluminum foil, and it's a super strong grip, so you don't have to worry about it coming off there. So let's do a little test. We put a new tip on there. We're going to cut our tip, excuse me. So there's an interesting dilemma that happens when you use these new tips. If you can't get it forced down far enough, you may have to go back to the very base of it and cut off just a little bit. So it's kind of one of those problems that you may not anticipate, but just take your PVC cutters or your razor and cut about 3 inches off the bottom, maybe 2.5. All right, so now let's see if it fits in there. It fits in there perfectly. And let's get a little bit of our painter's tape so we can test it coming out. So putting these new tips on make it a heck of a lot easier than throwing away a perfectly good caulk. So just make sure that you get some of these, and the next time you're caulking you can redo your caulk. But I'm going to show you a way now how to preserve the caulk for up to 10 years. Now I nearly forgot to mention before I was going to show you the 10-year storage method is a way that you can store it quickly and easy without tape or anything. Just any type of container, put some water in it, and then submerge the tip in water, and that'll keep it over a period of 24 to 48 hours. So if you're doing a project, you go to work and you have to pick back up on it the next day or the day after, this will prevent the caulk from drying out. So just putting it in just ordinary tap water and just letting it sit there until you're ready to go back to it. But this is not a long-term solution, but it is just a quick and easy way to keep your caulk from drying in a short 24 to 48 hour period. Now about, like I said, 2014, sometime around that time frame, I did a total remodel of my bathroom, painting it, caulking, putting in new trim work and everything. And once I was through with it, I put it in a container like this, and this is super easy to do. The way I did it is I used something that was in the kitchen, and you can use the exact same thing if you already own it, or if you don't, I'll put a link in the description to get one, because the price on these things have come way down since I bought mine at the big box store. I think it was either Sam's or Costco, but this is the way you can store it for a very long period of time. I took mine out of the container here, unsealed it, and sure enough it was still good to go, and it was double the normal lifespan of caulking because of the way I stored it. Now this is just a common food saver, and like I said earlier, I bought this probably close to 20 years ago, but it's the perfect way to store caulking because you're removing any oxygen from getting to the tube, either at the base of it or at the top where you've opened it previously. So having one of these will save you a huge amount of money. The prices of them have been cut by, I think, 50 to 75% of what I paid for this particular unit. So I'm going to show you how to do it in the best way I feel to do it. So the way you want to do this is you want to, unfortunately, the width of these are not wide enough, because that would be even better, but they're just not the right width. If you do have a food saver that has an extra wide bag, then that would be even better. But what I'm doing is I'm putting them in like this, but I'm giving it a little bit of extra space there, because when we vacuum seal it, you're going to need extra room on the top and extra room on the bottom. So I'm going to run the cutter across the top, and there we go. We're going to put that into the food saver and seal one side. But when you're putting this in the bags, you want to make sure that you do what I've done here. I put all same light caulk into one container, so they're not mix and match. So that way, when I open it up, if I'm going to use more than one tube, I've got it all right here together. If you only have a few tubes of caulk in your entire supply, then it would be okay to mix and match. But I think it's better to try to keep all alike caulkings together. So if you're a professional painter, I think this is the best way to do it, depending on what type of caulking you're using, whether it's clear, white, or colored caulk. So whatever type you have, just put them all together in each pack. And of course, it perfectly holds 4, and once it's vacuum sealed, no oxygen can get to them. I'm going to demonstrate how to put them in there. Now most of these bag sealers are all the same. You're just going to seal one end first. So in my particular model, you just put it in there. Tell it to stop and seal the end. It takes a few seconds to heat that up and completely seal it so no oxygen can get in there. Just give it a few seconds and you'll hear it depending on your model. Like I said, I'm not even sure this model is still sold, but I'll put a link in the description to one that I think is really good, or maybe the same brand. So it's still a little bit warm where it is heat sealed this ending, the end of it there. And I'm going to open the other bag and put them in there and show you how well this works. Now, I'm hoping you can see this on camera, but this is a very tight seal. So once we open it, it should let oxygen in. I'll just carefully cut across one side and you can see it just suddenly released there. So that tells you what a tight seal it is and the lack of oxygen. Even though these on the bottom are probably really well sealed, I suppose there's a chance that some amount of oxygen can get in there. And once you open these, there's very little you can do to stop oxygen from getting in the top, whether you're talking about the plastic things you buy or you try nail or a screw. But there's just going to be a small amount of oxygen that gets in there and it's going to go bad all the way down to the top or the exit here, and then probably up to an inch there. So it's a lot easier if you just seal these in the bag. So let me demonstrate that real quick. I'm going to demonstrate doing both, just doing one in a bag. If you only have one tube of caulking, it really doesn't matter. You just kind of put it in at an angle like that, put it back inside of your seal area. Then you press stop and seal on my particular model. It's a very tight seal there. Takes a few seconds to completely heat that little line across there. And you can hear it releasing. And there you go, you have a perfect seal. It's a very tight, airtight container there. There's a lot of things, I believe there's one sold where you can put the entire tube in a container and it's supposed to make it airtight, but this truly does remove all of the air from it. Now, if you don't have one of these or you don't want to go to the trouble buying it, you could try using a freezer bag and using a vacuum with a small attachment where you could try to vacuum out as much air as possible. But by using one of these food sealers, it makes it a lot easier. So let's try a 4-pack and see how well that works. All right, let's put 4 in there. And I made the mistake earlier of cutting it too short, so you need to make sure you give it a nice maybe 5 to 6 inches at the top. It may seem like a waste, but you can buy a roll of these food saver bags for very small, so you're only talking about pennies per bag. So we're putting 4 light tubes in the same container, and like I said, this could be stored for years. If it's unopened, like these 3 are, you could store them for, I believe it said on the website, something like in store, I think it was up to 48 months. But the problem is, if you put these in your basement where you have heat and cold, then that can drastically reduce the storage time on these. So I'd recommend, if you don't seal them like this, and even if you do, put them somewhere in a closet where there's not extreme temperature changes. So let's put this in our food saver. Try to get that on camera there. Put that in there. I'm going to let you see how strong this gets. Okay, mine has an auto stop feature and it should seal the end of the bag. Takes a few seconds there just to do it. You want to kind of listen for that release. And there you go, it's sealed it. Still hot to the touch, but you have a very airtight seal. It even malforms these. They're such a strong, and on my particular model, you have a gentle or a normal vacuum seal. So if it does deform them too much in the particular model you have, you can just do it on a gentle cycle if you have that. So as you can see, I'll try to make it easy for you to see there, but there's no oxygen in this bag. It's been all vacuumed out, so you don't have to worry about it getting to your caulking and ruining it, so you don't have to cut the tops off and start over with those white tips as I showed you earlier. So as I mentioned, whether you're just trying to seal up one so you don't have to waste that $15 or whatever it was you paid for, or if you're a professional painter or you go through quite a bit of caulking, you can store it like this and it will last for many, many years. Like I said, I redid my bathroom a decade ago and I opened them up and they were still good. A little bit of dryness at the top, but I was able to break through it really easy. So it wasn't anywhere like you would expect if you just left it on a shelf. Again, as I said earlier, it's better to store these somewhere where it's climate controlled, maybe a hallway closet or something like that around your house. Putting this in a garage or an outbuilding, there's going to be extremes in cold and hot, and that can really make the caulking itself become hard, even if it's not exposed to oxygen. So that's another thing to remember. But the Food Saver or whatever brand you decide to get will make these last for quite a long time. I'll put a link in the description to one I think works really well. We have a second one in our kitchen that my wife uses. Officially, this is the one I use in the shop, so I just put it back on the shelf out in the shop, and whenever I need to seal something, it seals it up quite well. So guys, my channel is all about saving money around the home or garden, everything from vegetables to bonsai to painting, interesting experiments I like to do. If you're interested in helping support the channel, I also have a Patreon. You can go there. I've got some free material there, some PDF downloads of different projects I've done. You can see early release content for $5, or you can see many videos that I'm planning that will never appear on YouTube for $10. So I really appreciate people helping me do this, because it really is a labor of love. I enjoy working. I built this greenhouse myself. I enjoy working around the yard, and doing things like this is really my pet projects. I just spend so much time. Actually, close to 30 years I've lived on this property, so I'm always doing something. So if you have any questions about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first. I always put those to the front of the line because I get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments a day. So I really appreciate it, and have a great day.